The night was quiet in Lagos, the kind of quiet that only comes when the city is tired of pretending to be strong. Lights shimmered across the skyline like distant promises. Cars moved slowly along the streets, carrying stories that nobody would ever hear. Miriam lay still on the hospital bed, her breathing slow and controlled, like someone walking carefully across thin ice. The white ceiling above her felt too clean, too innocent, as if it had never witnessed the darkness that lived inside human hearts. She remembered the taste of the soup, not the real soup. The soup she had never swallowed. The poison they had wanted her to drink. Love, she thought bitterly, was the most beautiful weapon ever created by human deception. Outside the hospital room, footsteps echoed softly. Daniel was talking to someone in a low voice, probably checking the final details of the plan. Her brother. Her protector. The man who had saved her life without ever asking for reward. Miriam slowly moved her fingers under the blanket. Her heart was calm now. Not because she was fearless, but because fear had already lived inside her for too long. Fear of Kenneth. Fear of Vanessa. Fear of the man who had kissed her forehead every night while secretly planning how to bury her. 8 years. 8 years of marriage built on smiles that were rehearsed in darkness. She closed her eyes and remembered the day she met Kenneth. He had been standing outside a business conference hall, wearing a simple dark suit, smiling like someone who carried peace inside his chest. "You look like someone who doesn't believe in wasting time," he had said. She had laughed. "I don't believe in wasting life." That was the first lie. Because she wasted 8 years believing his love was real. Miriam Okefer was not born rich. Her father had been a retired military officer who believed discipline was more valuable than money. Her mother had sold handmade fabrics in the local market when Miriam was a child. Luxury did not come to her as inheritance. Luxury came to her as survival. She built her fashion empire one step at a time. First, a small boutique in Lagos, then another location, then Abuja. Then investors started calling her instead of her calling them. Elegance by Miriam became more than a brand. It became a symbol. Women bought her clothes not just to wear fashion but to wear confidence like armor. Kenneth loved that success. At first, he said he admired her strength. He said he wanted to build a future where they would be partners in everything. He cried once when she told him she was worried about being too successful for a husband to feel proud. That was the moment he entered her heart. Like a man pretending to carry light while hiding a knife inside his shadow. The plan began slowly, subtle suggestions. "You work too hard. You should rest more. Maybe you should make me the beneficiary of your will. Just in case something happens." Love speaks softly when it is planning murder. Vanessa was the second voice inside the darkness. Best friend, wine partner, confidant. The woman who smiled while measuring Miriam's success like a competitor studying enemy territory. "You are so strong, Miriam," Vanessa would say. "But men don't like women who are too independent." Miriam trusted her. Because betrayal always wears the clothes of friendship before showing its true face. The night she heard them was the night the universe decided to show her truth without mercy. Poison, funeral plans, property sales, Oscar-worthy fake mourning. They thought she was already dead inside their future. But survival is not always loud. Sometimes survival is silence wearing intelligence. When Kenneth left the dining room, believing she had swallowed the poisoned soup, Miriam did not panic. She walked to the window. She found the plant she had grown for 3 years. A beautiful diaphanous green plant that symbolized patience. She poured the soup slowly into the soil. Rat poison works quietly. But soil remembers. She had tested the soil later. Enough poison to kill 3 people. She smiled when Daniel told her the result, because that plant became evidence, not of death, but of intention, and intention is the soul of crime. The hospital plan was simple. Let Kenneth believe he had won. Let Vanessa celebrate inside her vanity. Let greed speak loudly enough to record its own confession. Miriam allowed them to believe she was dying. She learned something important in business and in life. People reveal their real nature when they think nobody is watching. Kenneth called Vanessa from the hospital corridor. He smiled. Miriam watched him from the glass window. The smile of a man who believes justice is money. The smile of a man who believes love is ownership. The investigation team worked silently. Phone records, bank transfers, security cameras, bribe doctor confession, pharmacy footage, text messages planning murder. Evidence is patient. Evidence does not rush. On the morning they read the will, Kenneth walked into the conference room wearing the suit Miriam had bought him. Luxury is strange. Sometimes it's memories of betrayal inside its threads. The recording played, his voice. Cold, calculated. I just put it in her food now. The room did not explode with anger immediately. Truth has a gravity that makes silence heavier than shouting. Then Miriam walked in, alive. Strong, unbroken. The predator saw the prey standing as a lion. Fear is interesting. It looks like confidence when it is trapped. Kenneth tried to speak. Words failed him. Because lies cannot breathe when truth enters the room like sunlight. The police handcuffed him quietly. Vanessa cried. Not because she felt guilt, but because she lost the future she thought murder would buy her. Kenneth shouted while being taken away. Money was gone. Power was gone. Freedom was gone. And love was never real. 3 months later, Miriam stood before women who had survived betrayal. She spoke about lies that wear kindness. About people who smile while planning destruction. About survival being more powerful than revenge. Revenge destroys the soul slowly. Justice builds life slowly. She founded the Rising Phoenix Foundation, helping women rebuild after emotional violence. Because some battles are not fought with weapons. Some battles are fought with self-worth. 6 months later, she stood in her penthouse apartment overlooking Lagos. The city was beautiful at night. Lights moving like dreams traveling inside human ambition. She thought about Kenneth sometimes. Not with hatred. Not with sadness. But with understanding that some people are broken in ways that love cannot repair. Her phone buzzed once with an unknown message. I'm sorry. She typed 3 words. I forgive me. Because the strongest prison is guilt. And the strongest freedom is self-forgiveness. Then she blocked the number. Life continued. Business expanded. New love approached slowly but respectfully. Not the kind that promises everything in one night, but the kind that builds trust like architecture. Miriam looked at the skyline and whispered something her grandmother once told her. The snake that bites the farmer often ends up in the farmer's pot. Those who dig graves for others do not escape the earth they disturb. The woman who survives fire becomes fire. Not destructive fire, but the fire of strength, the fire that lights paths for others. Miriam smiled, turned off the lights and slept in peace. Because survival is not just about escaping death. It is about learning how to live again. The morning sunlight entered Miriam's bedroom slowly, like a guest who understands the value of silence. Luxury, she had learned, was not about gold. Luxury was about peace. About waking up without fear that someone might poison your coffee. About sleeping without listening for footsteps in darkness. She walked to the balcony and felt the cool Lagos air touch her face. Below her, the city was alive. Market sellers arranging fresh vegetables. Businessmen moving toward meetings that would decide their futures. Children laughing on their way to school. Life was loud. But inside Miriam, there was quiet victory. She remembered the courtroom day when Kenneth tried to deny everything. His lawyer argued about technology. About artificial intelligence voice manipulation. About how modern science could fabricate reality. But science also had answers. Phone towers recorded location signals. Security cameras recorded faces. Financial systems recorded money movement. Truth lives inside data when humans forget honesty. Kenneth's gambling debts were exposed. Hidden offshore accounts were traced. The bribe paid to the doctor was recovered. Justice is not always dramatic. Sometimes justice is paperwork walking slowly but carrying iron chains. Vanessa's trial was shorter. Her tears were not accepted as evidence of innocence. She confessed partially, blaming emotional pressure and jealousy. Jealousy is a dangerous seed. When watered by greed, it grows into murder. Kenneth received 15 years. Vanessa received 12, Miriam visited neither of them. Forgiveness does not require physical presence. Sometimes forgiveness means releasing emotional connection completely. Her business empire changed after the scandal. People thought betrayal would destroy her brand. Instead, elegance by Miriam became more powerful. Women trusted her more because they saw her survival as proof that her brand was not built on illusion. International investors approached her. Not because she was a victim, but because she was a survivor who built value under pressure. Money follows strength. Respect follows integrity, freedom follows truth. One evening, Daniel visited her penthouse with tea. They sat silently watching the city lights. "How are you really?" Daniel asked again. He asked that question often. Because doctors understand trauma hides inside smiles. "I am healing," Miriam answered. "But healing is strange." "What do you mean?" "Some days I feel powerful, like I can conquer anything. Other days I remember the night and feel empty." Daniel nodded. "That is normal. Trauma is not erased, it is managed." Silence returned. Then Daniel spoke again. "You know, Kenneth asked about you during his first year in prison. What did he say?" "He said he loved you." Miriam did not react immediately. Love is a word that criminals often use when consequences arrive. "What did you reply?" she asked. "I told him real love does not plan murder." The wind moved gently through the balcony, far away. City traffic lights blinked like patient stars trapped inside human civilization. Miriam thought about her mother. Her mother had cried for days after the incident. Not because she feared death, but because she feared what betrayal does to the human heart. Mother's love is often the strongest fortress. But even fortresses feel pain when children are hurt. 3 years after the trial, Rising Phoenix Foundation became internationally recognized. Women who survived domestic violence, financial abuse, and emotional manipulation came to Lagos to share stories. Miriam spoke at global conferences. Not as a victim, but as a woman who rebuilt herself using broken pieces. She always ended speeches with the same message. You are not the betrayal you survived. You are the life you build after betrayal. You are not what someone tried to make you become. Luxury life, she told young women, was not only about money. Luxury life was about choosing peace over toxic relationships. Choosing respect over validation. Choosing self-worth over fear. Dating again was slow. She met a man named Thomas, an architect who designed hospitals. He spoke softly, listened more than he spoke. Never asked about her money during early conversations. Respect was his language. They went to dinner twice a month. Nothing rushed. Trust grows like slow sunrise. One night, Thomas said something that surprised her. "I admire your strength, but I hope one day you allow someone to protect you too." Miriam smiled. "I survived because I learned I must protect myself first." He nodded. "That is wisdom, not pride." Sometimes they walked along Victoria Island coastline, watching waves touch the shore and retreat. Nature teaches relationships. Love should be like waves. Coming, touching. Respecting boundaries. Leaving space for breathing. Never drowning the other. 5 years after the betrayal, Kenneth was released early for good behavior. Miriam heard the news but did not react. Some people expect emotional revenge, but true maturity is silence. Kenneth tried to contact her once after release. She did not respond. Closure is not conversation. Closure is emotional disconnection. Her business went global. Elegance by Miriam opened branches in 3 countries. Women wore her designs during leadership conferences, weddings, and professional events. She became not just a businesswoman but a symbol that betrayal cannot define destiny. On quiet nights, Miriam sometimes stood at the balcony and remembered the sentence her grandmother said. "The woman who survives fire becomes fire." But Miriam had changed that meaning. She believed now that the woman who survives fire becomes light. Fire can destroy. Light can guide. She chose light, not revenge, not hatred, not bitterness. Because bitterness is a prison without walls. Years later, when journalists asked her what she learned from betrayal, she answered simply, "I learned that love is not ownership. I learned that trust must be built slowly. I learned that money can attract people, but character keeps them. And I learned that the strongest revenge is building a life so beautiful that your enemy regrets losing access to it. That night, Lagos city lights shone like thousands of silent stories. Miriam closed her eyes and felt peace. She was betrayed, she was poisoned. But she was unbroken. And the woman who faked death for revenge was reborn into life. Stronger, smarter, untouchable. Time changes everything. But time also reveals everything. 6 years after the trial, Miriam stood inside the international headquarters of Elegance by Miriam in Dubai. Glass walls surrounded the executive office, reflecting the golden sunlight of the desert city. Luxury was different here, not loud. Not flashy. Silent, powerful. The kind of luxury that does not need validation. Her company now employed over 5,000 women worldwide. Single mothers, survivors of abuse. Young girls who wanted independence. She had created something bigger than fashion. She had created opportunity. Her assistant knocked gently. "Madam, the board meeting will start in 10 minutes. "Thank you, Aisha." Miriam looked at her reflection in the glass window. She was 44 now. But age had added authority to her presence. Not softness, authority. Her natural hair was longer now, styled elegantly. Her navy business suit symbolized discipline and strength. Success is not only measured by money. Success is measured by freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from dependence. Freedom from emotional manipulation. Inside the boardroom, international investors waited. The discussion was about launching Elegance by Miriam in London and Singapore. The financial projections were strong. The brand had become a symbol of feminine resilience. During the presentation, one young investor asked a question. "Mrs. Okafor, your story is widely known. Do you ever fear that people only support your brand because of your past trauma?" The room became quiet. Miriam smiled slowly. A professional, controlled, confident smile. "That is a good question." She paused. "Let me answer honestly. I do not sell trauma. I sell strength. When people buy my designs, they are not buying my pain. They are buying the idea that survival is possible." Silence followed. Then the investor nodded respectfully. That was the difference between victim branding and empowerment branding. Miriam refused to live as a tragedy. She chose to live as a victory. After the meeting, she received a message from Daniel. "Papa is proud of you." She smiled. Her father had aged but remained stubbornly strong. Military discipline never leaves a soldier's heart. That evening, Thomas visited her Dubai office. He had changed slightly, more confident, more mature, more certain in his movements. They went to dinner at a restaurant overlooking Burj Khalifa lights. "Do you ever think about him?" Thomas asked suddenly. Miriam knew who he meant. "Yes," she answered honestly. "But not with hatred." "What do you feel?" "Nothing." Silence again. Then she added softly. "That is how I know I healed." Hatred is still emotional connection. Nothingness is freedom. Thomas reached across the table and held her hand. Not possessively. Just gently. Respectfully. Like someone touching a fragile but strong diamond. "I want to ask you something," he said. "Go ahead. Will you marry me?" The city lights reflected inside Miriam's eyes. She did not answer immediately. Marriage was no longer a romantic fantasy for her. Marriage was partnership, trust, safety, consistency. After a long moment she spoke. "If I marry again, it will not be because I need protection. It will be because I found companionship." Thomas smiled. "That is the only reason I would want it too." 2 years later, Miriam and Thomas married quietly in a private ceremony near the ocean. No media. No publicity. Only peace. The wedding dress was simple. Elegant white silk, no excessive jewelry, because true luxury is simplicity surrounded by meaning. During the ceremony, Daniel whispered to her. "Are you happy?" "Yes," she said, truly happy. The waves behind them moved slowly, like the heartbeat of Earth itself. Life continued, business expanded. The foundation helped over 20,000 women within 10 years. Kenneth was released from prison permanently at age 62 due to health complications. Miriam did not visit him. But one day she received another message from an unknown number. "I understand now what I destroyed." She did not reply. Instead, she deleted the message. Forgiveness does not require conversation. Forgiveness is internal liberation. Years later, when journalists asked her the most important lesson of her life, she answered never ignore small signs of emotional manipulation. Listen carefully to how people speak about others. Watch how someone treats people they believe are less important. Because character is revealed when ego is not threatened. On the night she turned 55, Miriam stood on the balcony of her penthouse in Lagos again. The city was still alive. Children were laughing somewhere far below. Cars moved slowly under street lights. She held Thomas's hand. "Are you afraid of growing old?" he asked. "No," she said. "Because I survived being destroyed once. Age is not my enemy. Fear is." She leaned against him slightly. Peace, after betrayal, after revenge, after rebooting, came simple life. Beautiful life. A life that belonged completely to her. The woman who faked death to survive was now living more fully than ever. Because sometimes, dying inside a toxic love is the real death. And choosing life is the real resurrection. Many years later, children studying business and psychology in universities across Africa learned about Miriam Okafor. Not as a victim, not as a survivor only, but as a case study of resilience, leadership, and emotional intelligence. Professors used her story to teach something important. Betrayal does not destroy high-value character. It only reveals it. Students were asked a simple question during lectures. What was Miriam's greatest weapon? Some answered intelligence. Some said patience. Some said legal strategy. But the correct answer was always the same: self-control. Because intelligence without emotional control can still fall into revenge. Patience without purpose becomes weakness. Strategy without moral clarity becomes manipulation. Miriam's life became a symbol of balanced strength. Not aggressive dominance, not passive suffering, but controlled power. Like deep ocean currents that move silently yet shape continents. On the 10th anniversary of the Rising Phoenix Foundation, a statue was unveiled near the Lagos waterfront. It showed a woman standing calmly, wind touching her clothes, eyes looking forward, not backward. The inscription beneath the statue read, "She was betrayed, she was poisoned, she survived. She rebuilt life for others. And she proved that human spirit is stronger than deception." That day, Thomas stood beside the statue with Daniel. They spoke quietly. "She changed history for many women," Thomas said. "Yes," Daniel replied. "But she always said she was just living honestly." That was Miriam's philosophy. Do not try to become a legend. Just live truthfully. Legends are built by society after you are gone. At sunset, Thomas placed a white flower beside the statue. Not roses, not luxury flowers. A simple white flower. Because Miriam believed simplicity was dignity wearing peace. He whispered softly, "I loved you until the last breath." The wind moved gently across the water. Some people say souls listen when names are spoken with love. Perhaps they do. Perhaps Miriam heard him somewhere inside eternity. Life continued moving in Lagos. Businesses grew. Women became entrepreneurs, children received education. And somewhere inside the hearts of thousands of women, a silent belief lived. If Miriam survived, I can survive too. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge against betrayal is not punishment. It is living so beautifully that your story becomes someone else's strength. And that is how the woman who was betrayed, the woman who was poisoned, became eternal. Not in fear, not in hatred, but in hope. The city lights of Lagos shone across the night ocean. Silent, endless, patient. Like a woman who survived fire and learned to shine without burning herself again. In the quiet years that followed, Miriam often sat alone on her balcony at night, holding a cup of warm herbal tea. Success had given her many things: money, respect, freedom, security. But the greatest gift success gave her was something she never expected. Silence without fear. For years after the betrayal, she had slept lightly. Listening, waiting, expecting danger. But now the nights were peaceful. The human brain remembers trauma even when the heart has healed. Healing is not forgetting. Healing is learning that danger is no longer inside your home. Sometimes young entrepreneurs visited her for mentorship. They always asked about money. She would answer them slowly. Money is important. But your mind is more important. If you lose money, you can earn again. If you lose your peace, you may never find it again. One young woman asked her one day, "Madam, how did you know Kenneth would betray you?" Miriam thought for a long moment. Then she answered honestly, "I didn't know. But I saw small things. How someone talks about people who are not present. How someone values money over relationships. How someone becomes too comfortable asking for control. Love should never feel like surveillance." The girl wrote those words carefully. Love should never feel like surveillance. Years later, researchers studying emotional abuse patterns cited Miriam's life story in psychology seminars. They explained something simple but powerful. Most victims of betrayal ignore early warning signals because they want love to be real. Humans are wired to hope. Even when logic warns them. Even when intuition speaks quietly. Miriam's story was used as an example of emotional intelligence overcoming romantic illusion. At 80 years old, Miriam spent most of her time walking slowly along the coastline near her home. Thomas was gone by then. He passed peacefully asleep at age 78. Before he died, he held her hand and said only one sentence. "You saved my heart too." She cried quietly that night. Not because she was alone, but because love had finally been gentle to her. On her 82nd birthday, her family organized a small celebration. Daniel was older now, his hair gray. His daughter had become a doctor. Legacy continued. Miriam cut the cake slowly. The room was filled with soft laughter. Someone asked her one final question. "What is the meaning of life?" She smiled. "Life is not about avoiding pain. Life is about choosing what kind of person you become after pain. You cannot control who betrays you. But you can control whether betrayal turns you into hatred or wisdom." That night Miriam went to sleep peacefully. In her dream, she saw the plant she once saved by pouring poison soup into its soil. The plant was alive, green, strong, growing quietly under sunlight. She understood the dream. Even soil that carries poison can become fertile again if given time. Human hearts are the same. At dawn Miriam Okafor passed away quietly in her sleep. The doctor said it was natural. Her face carried a faint peaceful smile. At her funeral thousands of women stood silently. No crying loudly. Only soft prayers. Because she had taught them strength without drama. Daniel spoke last. "My sister was not perfect. But she taught us something important. Live in a way that your enemy regrets losing access to your life. Not through revenge, but through excellence." The ocean breeze moved gently that day. And somewhere inside the city of Lagos, women continued building businesses. Studying, healing, loving carefully. Because one woman survived betrayal and showed them that life can rise again. The story of Miriam Okafor did not end with death. Because stories that teach survival never truly die. They live inside the hearts of those who believe they are not broken. And somewhere, in the silence of the world, the woman who was betrayed, poisoned, and unbroken still whispers. Choose lifedom. Choose peace. And never let someone else write the ending of your story.